All right, Chinere, what's up, Fabian?
Not much, just won a game. I don't know if you watched it.
It was a bit difficult to not watch it, actually. Marcy was kind of forcing us to check it on the monitors here. But, again, congratulations on your victory in Rio, and of course here in the debut match for the season against Mocket, a team that actually gave you a pretty decent run for your money in the previous season, at least in the final matchup that you had in a tie. But let's talk a bit about a few of the rounds that went in. Now, at round number 4, you guys were attacking in the bedroom, and just nobody was on the bedroom. No one was anywhere near the floor. How were things going on here in communication? Because you were running that Monty quite heavily on Pengu.
Well, we know that they struggle if they get pressured with the Monty, and seeing like a lot of teams like to play blitz on Oregon, but we found out that Monty just puts more pressure on them. Even if Monty can't kill them as well as blitz can, he just puts more pressure and they will panic more. So I guess that's why we played him.
And comboing with the Finka, does that just give you the ability to maybe ADS later on, or is the Finka more of a thing so Kanto on the Twitch can use for quicker ADS and more kill power?
Well, Kanto said he was shaking a lot in the game. I don't know how. I mean, he killed a lot of people, and then we picked the Finka so he wouldn't shake in his aim. That's why.
All right, now, in that final round, Goga was still alive. Somehow, I don't know what was going on, because in the hallway, it was you on the Valkyrie, and right behind you was the sledge that didn't really react to anything. Finally, he got the kill on you, tried to play in the kitchen, wasn't really able to do much after it. Now, Goga was left all on his own versus 2. How is the communication going on with the team there so he is allowed to win the initial fight instantly, and then after it, go for the finish on the Capitao?
I mean, we knew where he was going to plant because we had the bulletproof camera in by the door. So we called where he was going to plant. We just called default, and then another guy we didn't know. So they had so little time that Goga had 2 versus 1s, and then he's just a better player than they were.
Indeed. I mean, he did put up quite a bit on the scoreboard. I believe it was like 10 kills at the end. Goga definitely seems to, come into his own within the past 6 months or so. Definitely an impressive player. Now, in round number 8, in round where you guys were defending, it was downstairs in the laundry, but usually you'll put someone to play in and around tower, right? But you ended up putting 3 players in there, one of them being the Smoke. You were in there with Pengu as well. It was very weird how you lingered for quite a bit on the tower there, even though your opponents were kind of pushing from every side. How is the mindset of the setup, and how were you trying to escape from the clutches of Mocket?
I mean, we haven't studied them that much on Oregon. We kind of know what they do anyways, because they always go for a backside push, so it's not that difficult. As soon as you hear people running outside there, you try to overwhelm them with a lot of numbers. If you get a pick or if you don't, it doesn't matter. You just waste time. If they waste 1 minute, and what did we waste? 1 minute, 15 seconds or so. Sure, they won the round, but that was more in the end game how we played it. It was 5 versus 4 or something like that in their favor. We just wasted the time, and then we were unlucky.
All right, fair enough. Well, again, congratulations, Fabian, on the first victory potentially here in 2019. We'll see what happens, as you guys are already qualified for 6 Invitational, so it's definitely something to look forward to. But anything you'd like to say to your fans at the end of the day here?
Well, I'm just happy they watched, and I hope they enjoyed the game.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Fabian. Good night and good evening.
Thank you.
Hey there. How are you doing? Congratulations.
I'm good. Thank you.
I was really hoping that you wouldn't get a kill through the second half, so I could lead off with that. But you got the kill in the very final round. So I suppose the rest of the team doesn't need to get them when Leon is getting every single one. So
yeah.
Now, one thing that I wanted to ask you, and I'm probably going to ask every single team this today, is you're only 24 hours, possibly even less, removed from your last matchup. Now, for you, it's been the second match of the day where the team that lost yesterday won today. So when you went up against a team like Chaos and then immediately pivot and have to go up against G2, how do you condense your preparation for that, such a short period of time to ready yourself for the match today?
So what you saw yesterday was basically us. We're kind of real bit rusty, a bit cold, but we went into yesterday with a little bit more of a robotic mentality, 1s and 0s, just static strats, doing this, doing that. It wasn't really working out, and we knew when it comes to preparing with to play against G2, they like to play really chaotic, but when you start to really zoom in, you start to see the patterns and the things that they do, and you see the general way that they play. And we found out a little bit of a while ago that we could play more freely, we can have a little bit more of fun with them. in terms of we don't need the static strats. If we just play off of each other, if we play to trade, if we play for the frags, if we play on our gadgets, we rotate people around enough, we'll beat them in the rounds. It doesn't matter whether it's attack or defense, even on Villa.
When you're designing strategies around a team as chaotic as you said of G2, who do have some semblance of patterns here, obviously one of the things that G2 has been heralded for from lots of teams is their refrag potential. But today, I was actually quite impressed on both attack and defense. The number of times when rounds went well for you, you had everything lined up perfectly to ensnare members of this team. Jonas and Kanto in particular went down really early on. As somebody who's been in this scene for so long, how do you even begin to design a strategy for your team around this idea of we need to be able to pinch him immediately? Is this something that's done simply on the fly, or is there work that you do ahead of time to try and track their patterns and have their pieces in place going into the round?
So when it comes to like star players on a team, obviously Kanto is the name that jumps out when it comes to G2. You just kind of have to figure out what operators they're playing. And when you hear that operator's gun, whether it's shooting down a barricade, shooting a camera outside, you know roughly where that player is going to come from. And if you can stack people towards that area, then you give Kanto one hell of a time if he's trying to fight a 1v2 or 1v3, especially when we're only playing to trade him. We don't mind continuing around if it's a 4 versus 4 and Kanto's dead. It's just about being where he is and stopping him from getting as much free ground as possible. As you saw yesterday, Kanto went off. He was constantly picking people off. He was entering the building alone or with friends. It doesn't matter. He was doing the work, but no one was there to stop him. So today we decided, let's stop him.
That actually leads into a question that I wasn't going to ask, but I've heard from a couple teams that they do a lot of homework on one particular member. You look at Latin America, for example. I've been told from coaches before that they study Nesk to try to deliberately shut him down. So I'd imagine that you do quite a bit of work, and I'm sure every other team in EU does, deliberately to figure out the patterns of Kanto just to try and cool him off, because that takes a pretty potent weapon away from G2.
Well, yeah, that's the thing with your star players who are like starting to frag out. When they get the ball rolling, it's really hard to stop. It's the sooner you stop them, the better. And the earlier rounds are the ones that count. Specifically, when we were going into these early attack rounds, we understood that Villa is, it's very defender favored, and all we needed to really do is get a couple of rounds on the board, and we knew that Kanto would be at the forefront of these roaming strategies. We didn't necessarily do a ton of preparation for it. It's more of a on-the-fly, off-the-cuff, this is where Kanto is, let's start closing in on him.
And when you have Leon playing as good as he did today, playing extremely loose, you mentioned those star players getting the ball rolling well. I can't think of a better way of describing what happened with Leon too. So with that said, anything to say to your fans, to your sponsors, to the team, etc., and to the viewers as we conclude the interview?
Same as always. Big thank you to all of the fans and the followers and the viewers for supporting not only us, but Pro League in general. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much for your time. All the best in your next match, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Hello, Fabian. Nice to see you.
Oh, I wish I could say the same, Parker.
Thank you, Fabian.
You're welcome.
You you can't even hear kicks. Hopefully you can hear kicks on the microphone.
Yeah, I could hear that.
Oh, a 7-0 today. The team has had some struggles, and I wanted you to be able to elaborate on that. You put in a good performance against Empire yesterday. Empire, who have looked like one of the best teams in Europe, this region so far. Yesterday, you were able to come back. You drew it. You didn't get the victory that you were looking for. If you want, touch on what your team has been improving on and why you seem to be a different team over the last 2 play days, 3 play days than you were at the start of the season.
I mean, we've been saving so much strats, and we've been kind of taking a vacation. I went to Hawaii for 3 weeks, and I actually played from there. No, we've just played bad. We had a bad performance for a while. Shit happens. Every team is going to have bad performances sometimes. But, I mean, if you know your history, we've been like the US in World War II, awakening the giant. We just needed a wake-up call. And, I mean, we played decent against Empire. We should have won that game, I think. We did some mistakes that managed to give them the game. And now we seem to be back on track. I think mentality-wise, it's the most important part.
And you're heating up at the right time. You're about to be heading into the Invitational as well. You're obviously going to be looking to repeat as winners of that. When you approach a team like Chaos, they started the season off really strong as well. Adding Vittel into that roster, they did look like their coordination was working better. But you obviously were able to exploit that. You exploited it very well. It was a 7-0 today, and there weren't many rounds that looked that close either. How do you prep for a team like that, especially when adding Vittel in? Because Chaos has been hitting their shots for the most part, and looking like they're working much better as a unit. Today, you picked them apart one by one. What was the strategy behind that?
I think that no matter what happens in our season, even if we have 4 bad games, we're still the best team in the world. I just think that we are. We have the best shots. We have the best strategy. I just think we're the best team in the world, no matter what happens, even if we play bad for a while. So I think that we managed to come back from pretty much any kind of bad performance that we had. And after that, I don't know if we really prepared that much for Chaos. It's more that we just went there and played our game, and then if they can't keep up with our game, then we won it.
How much does confidence play into your ability to frag and play as a unit? Because I noticed in particular, prior to your Empire matchup, the team was entering largely solo, and you were missing an uncharacteristically high amount of shots. Today, that wasn't the case. Today, you actually won a lot of gunfights that you got basically dropped on by Chaos, but were still able to outmuscle them simply based on aim. Does confidence play a major factor in that, to be able to let the team actually win their gunfights? Or is that just more prep work and good drone work to help them?
No, self-confidence is everything in any FPS game. If you have the self-confidence and you believe in yourself that you're going to win the fight before you take it, you've pretty much already won it. And then if you're a better shot, like I said, I think we have the best shots, then we should win them as long as we have self-confidence, which we had today.
Well, it was genuinely nice hearing from you. Good luck in your matchup on the 31st. Good luck in your prep as well for the Invitational. Anything to say to the fans, etc., before we end the interview?
No, I'm just happy that the fans have stuck around with us, even if we had a bad few weeks. Stuff happens. We're happy to be back, and I'll see you next week in the next interview.
Take care, Fabian. Thanks for the day.
See you later.
Thank you. Congratulations on your victory today. How are you?
I'm just fine. Actually, I'm fine until now because I have to talk to you, Parker, and it's not the time that I enjoy the most out of my days.
Thank you. Let's talk about your matchup against Mouse today. You go to Clubhouse. You don't ban Nomad. You ban Ying instead. Is that specifically just to counter the way that Mouse plays, or is it more that Nomad doesn't really work all that well on Clubhouse in comparison to Ying?
I mean, when I get flashed, I feel like I don't see anything, and I don't like seeing nothing, so we kind of banned it. And also, they have a player named Sleben. Have you seen him play Ying?
I have seen him play Ying.
Then you know why.
Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about Kaid and Nomad, though, because you tend to be somebody who has good insight into this game and the way that Nomad is played. There were a lot of players on your team who speculated that Nomad might become your insta-ban. How does she differ on maps like Clubhouse, on big maps like Villa, versus maps that are a little bit closer like Oregon or Consulate? And why do you think certain teams forego her on certain maps and certain sites in comparison to others?
On the big maps, Nomad isn't that good because you can't be as close as you'd like to be when her air jabs go off. So on big maps, she's alright, but she can still be a nuisance. And most of the time, you see a Nomad or you hear a Nomad, you don't even try to flank because you might die because of it. So you don't even attempt the flank because you'll just die. And on the smaller maps, most of the time they will have someone close enough to actually kill you if you run into one. So you don't try to flank there either. So it's pretty much you hear a Nomad, you don't try to flank.
This is something we've speculated on because in the podcast that you did actually with Get Flanked, you mentioned that just simply the fact that a Maverick might exist changes the way that you play as a defender. Does the same thing work with Nomad if you know that she's unbanned, but she's might be played? Do you have more hesitancy when it comes to roam?
Well, obviously you have to hesitate every time you hear the sound cue of her firing her air jabs. You have no idea where they are. They don't make any sound. You obviously don't have any information on them, so you don't try something.
Perfect. And then let's focus towards the defender as well as Kaid. I saw you folks playing him actually quite a bit today. In Jonas's hands, is this just simply, once again, an operator that works well with certain sites and certain maps, or do you think his viability will be on all 7 maps and on every site that's in play?
If you 6-pick into it and they don't have a Thatcher, it's very, very, very difficult to get rid of it. So if they have a Thatcher, it's fine, but that's the thing. Now you have to play 100% Thatcher to even counter one operator. The game currently is just you pick what's countering the opponents more than anything else. You don't have the freedom to pick whatever you like. Sure, you can pick the Jing, but then you're missing something else. Maybe if they have a Maestro, you can't take care of Evil Eyes. So right now the game is just about countering stuff. It's just straight up. You have the most basic lineup, the same operators pretty much every single round, and then you go for same strats over and over because it's just how it works.
Almost like rock, paper, scissors, so to speak. Last question about this match in particular. I saw Pengu playing Hard Breach with you assisting him on the Maverick. You had Goga off of the Hard Breach role with Jonas holding the diffuser. Is this a new change that you're trying with the lineup? Is this simply Clubhouse because you don't have the Monty available because it was banned for Pengu to play?
Well, we've noticed that Count is sort of a mini BC. He just hits his nades, so we've rotated a bit on operators there. Goga had really good plays on his hard breacher, but Jonas was struggling a bit in his second entry or support to the entry fragger. So we've swapped around a bit in operators, and I mean, it seemed to work.
Well, you absolutely clobbered Mouse today, and the question that will remain as we go through the next 5 weeks is how much of that is you starting to fire things up, knowing that you've only got 5 weeks left to possibly go to Milan, and how much of that is just Mouse falling off in the second half. Anything to conclude the interview with before we say goodbye?
No, I'm just blessing everyone in chat with my godly powers, and then I hope they enjoy the next games coming up.
Awesome. Thank you so much. As always, enjoy the rest of your day.
I'll say the same, Parker. Have a good night.
Tjenare, Commander General, whatever you want to be called this
God
time.
Emperor. God Emperor.
God Emperor Fabian.
Yeah, that's the title.
On your golden throne as well, trying to keep chaos at bay. Finally, G2 are kind of back at the home. You're back from Hawaii. You did not save any strats on this matchup, I want to say. That Mira window with a soft wall on Garage, let's touch on that as the first point. Definitely not something that we see usually. It's not unusual to see a triple reinforcement on the garage door with a mirror window in the middle, but that was definitely something of a unique type of play. Please walk me through it from your end.
Oh, Goga forgot to reinforce his wall, so it was open.
Okay, that's fair. So is Goga now?
Or we want to put pressure on the guys rappelling up the CEO and stuff like that, so they always have to be afraid of actually having a guy run out behind them.
Okay, it's one of the two, of course. There was a point.
Whichever one you want to take.
Exactly.
Really.
I mean, there was a point where you were trying to move through and use that mirror window to your advantage and spot the thermite as he tried to move in to the site, but you were kind of held up by the guy starting to fire up above you and like, okay, now I can't do anything. Your plays on the Bandit were very interesting, but I also want to highlight Jonas. Both the two of you have gotten 11 kills in this matchup. Jonas not having had the best of, the past 6 months. We saw a shift away to more supporting roles in this matchup with him playing Habana and Maestro. Is this a thing that was like pre-planned from the team, or are you just trying it out to see if you can kind of find the role where he really fits into it and get that mindset back?
I mean, pre-planned operators, I don't think that's a thing in Pro League, Milos. I think it's actually mostly like, oh yeah, Jonas, you want to play this guy? And Jonas said yes, because he's Finnish. He doesn't speak very much. He says yes or no. That's all we get from him. Or it's actually that we wanted to play him on Hibana and Maestro. Again, you choose whichever one you want to believe in.
That's very true. It's a good thing that you're leaving us the options to kind of pick and choose. It's not usually...
It's a 50-50.
Yeah.
And seeing as it's you, I'm guessing you wouldn't get either of them right.
Fair enough. I'll give you that one. On that note, when you guys were attacking, though, you're trying to push versus lobby, you had zero control of the top floor. Now, there was a point that actually Robert kind of pointed out here, Flint, saying that the time the drone took to move into projector and spot any player down there so you can fight against him on the IQ all the way down in kitchen, you got the spot, you got the ping, and the instant you wanted to fire, you got shot by the MPX, and suddenly you're dead through 2 floors. Was that something that actually happened, or are we just kind of hallucinating? And how was the setup? Because you had no control of that top floor way deeper into the round.
We had a bit of struggles in the attacks. We got stuck kind of when we were attacking the lobby. We called like 1 minute and 20 seconds into the round. We're stuck. We need to change strat. So after that, it's kind of like, okay, let's rotate around, see if we get an opening. And if we don't get an opening, well, they won the round on the strat. So that's kind of how it works sometimes. Sometimes you try your best, but you don't find the opening in the strat because we started from the wrong side of the map. Had we gone CEO, it would have been way easier. So they won on the strat because we picked the wrong key to unlock it.
Yeah, very true. It's a very good way of putting it. At the end here, your victory today means that Empire is still not qualified for Milan, but you still remain in contention. You are, for actually the first time ever, tied 12-12 against Le Stream, which means the separation between you, should you tie in points later on in the season, will be in pure round differential, which you actually hold in total so far. Anything to say to the fans, and in preparation for maybe the harder games to come up, trying to qualify to Milan?
I mean, we don't really care if we go to Milan or not. Sure, it would be nice, but it's also nice to have a break. 6 months or whatever, 5 months to the next major. Yeah. That's what we care about, and that's where we're going to win. If we go to Milan, it's a bonus, and I mean, who doesn't like some pocket money? I appreciate all the support from the fans. We'll see if we go there or not.
Yeah, we'll see what kind of stuff you end up doing with the cash from 6th Invitational. Of course, I think we were talking about this at the airport flying back. It's like you need to win like 7 or 8 Pro Leagues to kind of get the same amount of cash.
You need to win 11.
11, yeah, that's quite a few. So yeah, taking a bit of a break. Maybe Empire can take away your pocket money. I don't think it's going to have that big an effect on you, right?
No, Korea's going to win that.
Mantis are actually coming up.
Honestly,
APAC, on a side note, I think watching APAC soon for those finals is going to be really exciting, and we're going to have a lot of fun going through that. But again, Fabian, thank you very much for the interview. You may go back to commanding your Empire, and thank you again for your few minutes of your very precious time. We'll see you. Good night. Bye-bye.
See you later, Gihao-san.
Evening, Meepy. Again, we get to see you for the 3rd time for this season and the 2nd time against G2. Oddly enough, seems like Team Secret is the bane of G2's existence in this season. But
seems like it.
Yeah, both myself and Rob are looking at this game and we're like, many of the early rounds you had on your defensive side, we weren't sure if it was just G2 messing up a lot or you guys just locking things down effectively. Because from our end, it's like they really were messing around too much. Even the basics of coordination were non-existent. And I think that partly explains why Pengu was so far up the scoreboard, which he usually isn't, at least not nowadays. And there wasn't really anything that they can do on that side, though. To kind of focus a bit more on specific rounds. In the very first round, you guys still were on the defense, and that was a flawless round defending in cash. How are you kind of picking off the information and kind of relaying it to make it such a flawless round?
Well, it really comes down to a multitude of things. We know that we can make more plays the more drones that we kill, so we are always counting down how many drones we're killing and where we're destroying them. So it means they need to redrone those areas, so it allows us to make plays in those specific places. And Funk has went unnoticed as Pulse underneath, as Valkyrie underneath with his cameras for quite a long time. And a lot of the time it's just figuring out, okay, there's a Thatcher here. If Thatcher's here, why is he there? Well, he's outside of Garage, so he's going to try and open the wall, or at least combo it with a Thermite or Habana or whatever. So using that information, we're able to put people in positions and sort of figure out exactly what they want to do. And when we realized that they wanted Garage control, especially when they opened up underneath, it's easy at that point to rotate players into key positions to stop that from happening. Clubhouse is it's a very old map, even with its facelift that it received a few patches ago. At this point, once you understand how these pushes work, you know exactly what the team needs to do, and everyone just springs into action.
Yeah, very, very interesting here to hear some of the mindset, because we oftentimes say it, but where your opponents are, where your opponents are not, where they are. You kind of can predict and have the timing of the strategy that they're trying to execute in your brain and see where these key operators, you mentioned the Thatcher, if he's there, then we can kind of predict what they're trying to do. And your angle that was held with the Legion up on the catwalk, that angle is deceptively strong for the defense. The point of view that you have is so massive that even as an attacker, you feel so good with your ACOG peeking around. Your body is completely exposed, and it was an easy 2K for you in that situation. But there were rounds where things were even more complicated for you because you had to face off against, on your attacking side, against the G2 Rome. They were defending all the way downstairs in Church. They had 3 players that were playing upstairs in Cash, and they were kind of giving you a hard time to try and clear them out before Pengu fell back to the site. How do you try to deal with players that run that sort of roam on Church? Because that wouldn't have been really heard of or even attempted before the change a few patches ago, as you mentioned.
Yeah, clearing out the roamers on club, specifically when they play around the workshop, the cash room, server, top garage, things like that, it can be quite tricky. It really boils down to where your players are and what the defenders are doing in that instance. So having a player top garage as a defender, denying that entirety of garage, because pushing that single door to gain garage control is really hard, basically means that the defenders always have a direction that they never really need to worry about, that garage side. And they can always just drop down into the oil pit and go back to site, or they can run into lounge and go down the blue stairs. And they have so many ways to escape, and it's about putting players into positions to make sure that you either allow them to do that or you cut them off. It depends really what your goal is, to just get map control or both kills and map control.
Yeah, in that case, it was a bit more complicated. It went to a 2v2. You guys were trying to find Pengu and take him away before he dropped into the oil pit. But because he was able to escape, his position was kind of unknown. You didn't have much time to capitalize on top.
Yeah, I think Alem heard a footstep or a movement or something that made us realize that he's still by the oil pit side of blue. And Stiz and him did a double push to drop the hatch, and they traded 1-for-1. We had a drone on the Echo, and we were pinging him, but the Echo went for the pre-fire and just managed to get the bullets. It was a really close round. Definitely, if we'd done a little better on clearing that alibi upstairs a bit quicker, and maybe not lost too many people to her, we would have done a lot better. Maybe won the round. But sometimes it's just how things happen.
One final question, which is specific to Gym and Bedroom, with you guys on the attack, Fabian on the Valkyrie, rotates around. I believe it was Fonkers, who was, to say the least, pretty bonkers in the entire game. It's holding down.
Fonkers was bonkers.
Oh, Fonkers was bonkers. That's very true. It was holding down with the IQ from construction all the way angle to the main stairs that lead up to the hallway into Bedroom. And then Fabian was able to skirt around and go the other way because he was getting pinged the whole time to get the gym. Was there at any point an idea of even that he was going around that side or not? Because we didn't really feel it was that way from our end.
Personally, there was an inkling in my mind that that's where he was going to go. But when you're posed with something like that, with the player planting behind the mattress, and you have the rotation that goes into office, you have the door that leads to the main stairs, there's a rotation inside a bathroom to the gym hallway, and of course you have gym rotation that they've made. Fonkers made the right choice in holding towards the main stairs, because there in his peripheral vision he can see bathroom and he can see the office rotate. So he's got 3 out of 4 things covered, and he did the best in his situation, and Fabian just managed to thread the needle, I guess.
All right. Well, with that said, congratulations on another victory. I mean, you push yourself up to 7th place. Obviously not a great thing to be in with Navi's game coming up very soon. But it's something. You still survive within the position to not instantly drop back into Challenger League. Anything you'd like to say to all your fans that are watching this matchup?
Well, obviously, we've had a little bit of a rough season, to say the least, but we're starting to pull ourselves out of it now. So I'd like to say thank you to all of the fans and supporters and friends who stuck with us through thick and thin, When you really are down on the leaderboards, you start to realize very quickly who your true fans are, and they're the ones that stick with you all the way.
Yep, it's very true, and it's something that applies to many things in life, indeed. As usual, a great interview and great time to pick your brains, Meepy, and ending it on a bit more of a wholesome subject. But thank you very much. Congratulations again on your victory against G2. We will see you next week as you face off against Penta Sports. Are they the same as G2? Who knows? Still to this day. Thank you very much. Good evening. Bye-bye.
Evening, guys.